You know what it feels like when you have that phenomenal night of sleep and you wake up feeling like a brand new person? Honestly, I think getting a great night of sleep is totally underrated. It's almost like a superpower. And in order to do that, you need a bed, you need pillows, you need sheets, you need blankets, you just need bedding, right? And some of this stuff is really expensive, but it's more affordable than you think with Boll & Branch. I love these guys. I love having them as a sponsor because Boll & Branch is literally changing the game by creating the world's softest bedding. Everything is ethically made, meaning everyone involved in the creation of their bedding has been treated with respect. Everything's crafted from 100% organic cotton. And I really like those values. It's awesome. And it's why I love having these guys as a show sponsor. And since Boll & Branch sells exclusively online, you don't have to pay that expensive retail markup. It's basically half the price for twice the quality. And there's no risk. You can try them for 30 nights and see for yourself. If you're not impressed, return them for a full refund. These guys have thousands of 5-star reviews. Everybody's writing about them. The New York Times, Forbes, the Wall Street Journal. Even 3 U.S. presidents have Boll & Branch sheets. Which ones? I know not, but I can't stop wondering. I've got to find out which presidents they're talking about. Anyway, go to bollandbranch.com today and you'll get $50 off your first set of sheets plus free shipping when you use the promo code RichRoll. It's $50 off plus free shipping right now at bollandbranch.com. It's BOLL and branch.com. Promo code RichRoll. We did it. We talked about amazing sheets. Let's do the show.
Actually, 2 years after the fire, I was playing my life pretty safe, and one of the guys from the fire was riding his bike. He was training for an adventure race and he got hit by a truck and passed away. And that for me just really reinforced that there's no benefit to playing your life really safe, because I thought because I'd been through that fire I'd be immune to further tragedy. But now I think if you don't live your life big, live it on your terms, take risks, bet big, believe in yourself, I don't really know if that's much of a life. It's not much of a life for me anyway.
That's Turia Pitt this week on the Rich Roll Podcast. The Rich Roll Podcast. I want you to imagine yourself running a trail ultramarathon in the beautiful Australian outback. Maybe close your eyes and try to really visualize the experience, unless, of course, you're driving a car or running on a treadmill. But you're doing your thing. You're enjoying the experience. You're just running along when suddenly, completely out of the blue, you find yourself surrounded by a raging brushfire, completely out of the blue. No notice whatsoever. No escape. You're surrounded by flames on all sides. It's all closing in on you. And this is it. You think this is how it's all going to end. The irony, the fear, until darkness descends upon you. But you don't die. Instead, you come out of months in a coma to discover 7 fingers missing, and you can't move because 65% of your body is covered in life-threatening burns. You suffer through 200 operations. You die 3 times on the operating table. You spend 2 years in recovery. This is the incredible story of this week's guest, Turia Pitt. And she's an extraordinary woman, a woman who didn't just survive this brush fire against overwhelming odds. She has gone on to defy all expectations to become one of the most admirable, one of the most inspirational people you're ever going to come across, certainly that I've ever come across. Turia's struggle has been long, it's been hard wrought, but today she finds herself in the role of humanitarian, of athlete, of motivationalist. She's one of Australia's most admired and widely recognized people. And amongst many of her amazing accomplishments, in 2016, she completed 2 Ironmans, including the Ironman World Championships in Kona. She has mentored over 6,000 people through her online programs. She is widely sought after for public speaking. She's active in fundraising and philanthropy. And she just released her second book. It's called Unmasked. I think it's only available in Australia. I'm not positive about that, but pretty sure. But her first book, which is called Everything to Live For, that's available in the US and I would assume most places. In any event, got a couple more things I want to say about Turia in a minute, but did you hear me mention earlier that getting a great night's sleep is like a superpower? Well, I really do believe that. You just can't be your best self if you're not sleeping well, or for that matter, if you're paying too much to sleep well. That's why Casper pioneered an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. I like how both sponsors this week are both about improving sleep affordably, which is really cool. I really do love these guys because they're gutting the middlemen, the resellers, the retailers, the showrooms, all the commission-driven, inflated pricing around mattresses. And they're passing that savings on to you by selling online at a fraction of what it would cost in a store. First off, the product is amazing. An in-house team of engineers spent literally thousands of hours developing the Casper, and they continue to develop their mattress using feedback of nearly 500,000 customers. We've got 3 at our house. I've mentioned this before. We love them. Our kids love them. The twin one fits perfectly in my rooftop tent where you can find me basically sleeping every single night. That's a whole other story. But here's the part I really appreciate. Buying a Casper mattress is super easy. You order online. It's available in the US, Canada, and now the UK, which is cool. It's delivered right to your door in a compact box. And the whole affair is completely risk-free because they offer this crazy free 100-night home trial, complete with free delivery and free return. So if you don't love it after sleeping on it for 100 days, they'll come and pick it up and they'll refund you everything, no questions asked. So why do they do this? Well, they do it because they understand the importance of truly sleeping on a mattress before you commit, especially considering you're going to spend a third of your life on it. And right now, I've got a special offer for the RRP tribe. You can get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/roll and using the promo code ROLL at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Turia. Turia. I think I'm saying it right. Yeah, it's Turia. She was just great. We had gone back and forth for a while at this point. I think almost a year trying to schedule this interview. I started following her story from afar maybe a year and a half ago. And we've been trying to get together for a long, long time. I was trying to figure out when she would be in the United States. So when I headed to Australia several months ago, she reached out again. I'm glad she did. And it was great to get together. She and her fiance, Michael, came over to our Airbnb in Bondi Beach. And we spent, a couple hours together. She was just super warm, funny, self-effacing, completely at ease with herself and like who she is and what she represents. And that, that I think was the most compelling and inspirational thing about her for me. Just that she is standing up, with a smile on her face, engaged in her life. It was just really, really cool. Anyway, we get into all of it today in this conversation. Her story, of course, her extraordinary relationship with Michael, who has stood by her throughout this entire ordeal. He comes on the mic a few times with his perspective, which is great. So this is really about turning tragedy and adversity into opportunity. It's about personal daily choices we all make every day about how we want to live our lives. And it's about the importance of putting others before yourself and serving those less fortunate. But mostly, this is a conversation about facing life head on. It's about taking risks. It's about facing your fears. And it's about believing in yourself. Turia is extraordinary. She's a beacon of hope and strength for millions of people all over the world. And it was just amazing to spend a couple hours with her. And at the very least, I think this is going to leave you feeling grateful for your own life and with perhaps a different perspective on the personal problems that you face, that we all face in our own lives. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Turia Pitt. So nice to talk to you. Thank you for coming over. This has been a long time coming, and I'm just super psyched to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. Michael and I were going before. We get to meet Rich real soon. So we're pretty pumped. So
yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. We were talking before the podcast, and we've been going back and forth now for 6 or 9 months. You came on my radar around like a couple months before Kona.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people texted me or emailed me and said, hey, you got to check out this story. It's unbelievable. And then I got in touch with you, and we were trying to figure out like if we were ever going to be in the same city. Yeah,
because I was in the States. I was in the States. You would know over Christmas. Mm-hmm. But you weren't there.
You were on the East Coast?
Yeah, New York.
Yeah,
New York. Yeah, right. You're on the other side of the country.
Right. Yeah. It's still 3,000 miles away.
Yeah,
so we couldn't make that work. And then when I was coming here, I thought about getting in touch with you, but I knew that you didn't live in Sydney or Melbourne.
Yeah.
I knew you lived somewhere else. So you just happened to be here. So here we are.
Well, I saw on your Instagram that you were here, so I just thought I'd hit you up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And now we're talking. So what are you doing here in Sydney?
Well, I do a lot of speeches. I'm a motivational speaker, online programs and all of that. So I'm just up in Sydney for work.
Right. So
my
it's
work
just
is
like
mainly
business.
Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane. Mm-hmm. But we live kind of in the country on the coast, about 4 hours south.
Right. So it's like farmland. Like, what is it like?
Oh,
there?
it's kind of like farmland. It's got really good surf, really good fishing, really good diving.
Uh-huh.
And it's a real, like, if you think Bondi is relaxed, like, my town is so relaxed you would fall asleep sort of thing. Yeah, it's
Bondi is pretty relaxed, but I'm pretty into it. I'm really happy
Well,
to
like,
be here.
my hometown is next level relaxed.
Right.
Yeah,
so you got to
things down
come up
there
here
moving.
for a little energy.
Well, I mean, I come up when I'm up in Sydney, I'm working, and then when I'm home, I'm just cruising, relaxing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what that work looks like. Like, you get up in front of audiences and you tell your story, I would imagine.
Yep. So I get up in front of audiences. I share my story. I don't really talk much about the fire. So I was burned during an ultramarathon, and
We're going to get into that. Don't worry.
Yeah. I think when I get asked questions about, you know, maybe journalists say, "Oh, you know, tell me about that day and tell me what it was like." And it's not that I'm uncomfortable with answering those questions. I just feel I've covered most of it, and I feel that it's not that interesting because anyone can have a really bad accident, which turns their life upside down. But I think what I've done with it, how I've reinvented myself, how I've rebuilt my life, I think that's the fascinating part. So that's the stuff I talk about in my speeches, about challenging yourself, getting outside of your comfort zone. That's how we grow. And because you can only speak to so many people doing speeches, I've started doing online programs too. So it's kind of the same thing what I talk about in my speeches.
Right.
But
Well, I think you're correct in pointing out that there's certainly no shortage of people that suffer accidents and sort of tragedies in their life. I mean, those people are they're everywhere, but it is the rare individual who can take that experience and channel it into not just a message, but a life work that can be positively transformative for others.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what you've done. And there's a lot to be respected and admired about that. But what do you think it is about you that allowed you to, you know, create a different kind of experience than perhaps what most people might have expected in the wake of what occurred?
I think it all starts with a choice. And I mean, I kind of make that choice every morning, you know, is that you can choose to have a bad day. You can choose to be in a bad mood. You can choose to look at things in a really positive way, be upbeat, be optimistic, be happy, have a lot of energy. And I really think it all starts just with that choice. And I think a lot of people don't understand that as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But I'm also, like, I'm just thinking of myself, right? Like, I understand that intellectually. And I know that I can make that choice, but I don't always make that choice. And in fact, quite often I don't make that choice.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Me
so
too.
like, there's that gap between the understanding and the implementation.
Yeah. Like this morning I woke up and I was in the worst mood ever. But I think I just said to myself, look, you can change this if you really wanted to. But obviously, I didn't want to change it that much. Sometimes it's kind of nice to be in a bad mood. Does that make sense?
Well, you're a human being. You know, I think I don't trust people that, you know, are always telling you they're super duper all the time.
Oh, that's a lot of crap.
Doesn't feel real or authentic. I feel like I'm being put upon. So, of course, yes, you should feel lousy once in a while, or you can't like look in the mirror and do that and pretend to be something that you're not. But I would imagine for you, and, you know, people in Australia know you. And when when you walk outside that, you know, people are going to notice you. And there's a certain kind of thing that you probably have to like carry with you because people are like, oh, that's her and this is who she is. And you have to like be that person. Yeah. Right.
But I also remind myself that I've chosen this life. So sometimes if I get frustrated that people recognize me, I say to myself, well, you've actually chosen to live a public life. You chose to be a motivational speaker. You've chosen to write books about your experiences. And if you didn't want people to know who you were, then change your job, change what you do for a living, because after 10 years, people are going to forget as well. So I think when we say I didn't have a choice and I was forced to do it, and when we talk like that, I feel it's really disempowering, and I think it's good for us to remind ourselves that, yeah, we're in control and we make the choice, and ultimately it comes down to our decisions.
And so what do you do? Like, are there practices when you give talks or in your programs? Like, what are the actual,
what are the strategies?
Steps and strategies you employ to, shift that mindset?
Okay. So one of my strategies is reframing. So I get my students to, when they're struggling with a situation, I get them to write down what the very worst thing that could happen would be. And then I get them to write down what the very best thing that could happen could be. And then I just ask them to choose between the two. It sounds really simple as well when I explain it. People are like, oh, is that your secret? Is that it? But I think that's where the beauty is as well. And I think we try to make things more complicated, more complex than they really are.
Yeah, I think that goes back to also that distinction between the understanding and the doing, because there's something about actually getting a pen out and writing it down and then just saying, well, I get that, so I've already done it. No, you actually haven't done it.
Do the work. That's what I say too.
I think so. And I think also when you write down, what's the worst thing that could happen, and you realize, well, actually, that's not that bad.
Yeah, that's what people say.
It takes the fear away from it and makes you more kind of empowered to maybe take something that seemed like a bigger risk than it actually is.
Yeah. And that's what, when you just think, oh, this could happen and that could happen and this could happen, and you kind of go around and round and round in circles in your head, and I think that might confuse you. And so I think if you just get pen and paper, write it down, make 2 lists. I'm a list maker, by the way. I love writing lists. And then you look at it, and it's not that scary once you've done that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, then what? What's the next? What's the step after that?
Well, they choose.
You choose. All right. So does anybody choose the worst case scenario?
No. Hey, I would love to see the day when that happened. No one has yet, but
it might.
Hey, they might.
You got to be ready for that person.
And I'll be like, well, hey, if you choose that, go for it, own it, be the most miserable person on the planet. Just as long as you're aware that you're choosing that. I think
there's a lot of people that subliminally are making that choice. They may tell you oh, I'm choosing the goal that I want, but actually their actions belie that. And the choice they're actually making is the worst case scenario, or the victim, the victim identity, or, what have you.
And that's why I talk a lot about, getting rid of your excuses, because I think I've probably got one of the better excuses going around.
Your excuse is pretty good.
Look, I don't want to get into a competition here, but I think mine is pretty good. And I could use that. I could say, no, I can't do that because I've been burned and I don't have all my fingers. And people would say, oh, I didn't realize I'm so sorry. Yeah, of course, you can't do that. And I thought about it, and I thought, I don't want to live a life where people just allow me to cop out just because of what happened to me. And so I try not to make excuses, and I think that sets a really good example for others, because I think, well, if Turia doesn't make excuses, my excuse about not having enough time doesn't really compare. And that's what I really love about, I do these fundraising adventures for Interplast every year. We're doing base camp in 2 months.
Explain what Interplast is.
Yeah, I probably should have done that.
It's okay.
So Interplast, they provide free surgery to people who need it in developing countries. So kids who are born with cleft lip, cleft palate, women who've had acid thrown on them, pretty much everything and anything that can be remediated with surgery.
It's like plastic surgery for its best, most intended purpose.
And I don't like to say plastic surgery because people think, oh, you're fixing chicks' breasts overseas. So that's why I never call it plastic surgery. But for people who actually legitimately, desperately need it, and they live in a country where there is no medical system. So I fundraise for Interplast. I've helped raise over $1 million so far. And, you know, that helps a team go to a developing country like Bangladesh, perform surgeries on people who need it for 2 weeks straight. And those doctors work bloody hard, you know, and they're not doing it for the accolades or for people to give them a pat on the back or anything.
Yeah, and they have a skill set that could easily be in Beverly Hills doing exactly what you just mentioned.
I found out about it because my surgeon actually volunteers for them. And in hospital, he used to disappear for 2 weeks on end, and I'd ask him where he went, and he told me all about Interplast, and I just thought, you know, this guy is so busy, so insanely skilled, could make a mozza giving people plastic surgery, but instead he chooses to volunteer overseas. And I think that was a really good lesson for me in terms of giving back as well.
Yeah, I think in kind of researching your story, you know, giving back and the service component of what you do is very much, you know, first and foremost and in the present. So I'd actually even written down, like, what does that mean to you and how important is that in terms of keeping you kind of in the mindset and, you know, frame of mind to like continue to do what you do?
I think when we can become too introspective, and we can always think about what's happening to me and what's happening in my life and what about my problems and what's going on with my personal life. And when you can get into a pattern where you're just thinking about yourself, and when it's all about me, and you don't think about others, I think that doesn't help you at all. And it's only when you help others and you help others who aren't as fortunate as you, I think that gives you a lot of perspective. So I went on these Interplast trips and I saw people who had these horrific injuries. They just didn't get any medical attention. And it really reinforced to me how lucky I was to live in a country like Australia where I've had access to literally the best medical care that money can buy. So I think helping others definitely gives you perspective, because when we're too introspective, we can't see the forest from the trees. Yeah,
I mean, it just gets you outside of yourself and your ego and your own little world and gives you a more expansive, perspective.
It's so easy for us to be all about me.
Well, of course. Yeah, I'm the champion of that.
So am I. You know,
I'm the biggest expert on me, and it's not a path to happiness, you know, and it's not a path to humility and all these things that actually will make you happy. It's doing the opposite of what your mind is telling you.
Yeah. So, for example, with this base camp trip, my thought pattern is I'm so busy, like I've got so much on and I'm doing this, and it's, I don't know why I'm fitting it all in. But as soon as I go and I meet some of the patients that we've raised money for and I see the shit that they have to go through, I'll just think, man, it'll just put things in perspective for me, and I'll be really grateful for that experience.
Yeah, I watched the 60 Minutes story on you. Yeah, so there's all this amazing footage of you with these patients, and it's heartbreaking to see these kids.
But this is the thing about patients in developing countries. They're so grateful for any type of medical attention at all. So the doctors are putting them under the worst amounts of pain, and they've just got a huge smile ear to ear the day after, because they know they've been fixed.
Beautiful.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I've got a big smile on my face just thinking about it. It's so beautiful.
I think to put all of this in proper context, I hope that you will indulge me and we can go back and kind of tell the story a little bit. I know you've told it a million times, and maybe you think it's not relevant, but I think there's a lot of people listening who haven't heard of you and don't know. And so I think it would be great if we could do that. So
in 2011, I was running an ultramarathon. So an ultra, probably your listeners would know what an ultra is, but it's
very well explained.
It's larger than a marathon. So a marathon is 42 kilometers, 26 miles. Is that
26.2?
So, okay, 26.2 miles.
We're not on the metric system yet. Still, when I was a kid, they kept telling us we're going to be on the metric system. Here I am. I'm 50 years old.
Why are you
we're
guys
still not
on the metric system?
Because we're all messed up in the U.S.
Yeah.
You guys have it right.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
And so I was a quarter of the way through the ultramarathon.
How old were you at the time?
I was 24.
And was this your first ultra?
That was my first ultra marathon,
But had you run marathons?
Yeah. So.
And this was like in the bush, right?
Well, I mean, it's been portrayed in the media as being like an outback desert ultra marathon. It was kind of like that. Like, it was a pretty remote area. So I was a quarter of the way through the ultramarathon. There was no phone reception on a trail. And I heard what I thought were trucks coming down the highway because I knew that the next checkpoint was really close to the highway. So I actually started running a little bit faster because I just wanted to get to the checkpoint, have water, some food, and, you know, cool down a bit. It's pretty hot in the Kimberleys. That's in Western Australia. It's pretty hot at the time of year when the ultramarathon was on. And I was stuck I came into a little gorge. There was 6 people in the gorge, and we could see a fire quickly approaching. Now that was the sound of the trucks. That was
the
what
fire trucks.
That was what I thought. I'll go back. When I say I thought I heard trucks, it was actually the rumbling of the fire. Now, I don't know if you know of the Venturi effect. So when hot air is funneled into a smaller space, like the gorge, it actually sucks the fire through. It increases the speed of the fire.
So it's like sucking the air into it,
Yeah,
right?
so we were at the start of the gorge and we saw the fire. We were like, oh, shit, like, what do we do? And so we all tried to run.
So you just run back the way you came from, or how do you?
This is the thing. So
because it's weird. It's like trying to understand, like, how do you get caught up in this thing without being able to run away from it?
Yeah. Well, so don't forget that a fire can move at around 100 kilometers an hour. So I don't think that even you'd be able to run away from it. And it's also weird because it's a day in my life close to 6 years ago. So my memory is a little bit patchy, but we were running through shoulder-high grass, dry spinifex, so I thought that would be perfect fuel for the flames. Or the side of the gorge, it was really rocky. There was less vegetation, but I also knew that the speed of fire accelerates going up a hill.
So you had to make a decision, like, in the moment, like, which way are we going to go?
Yeah. So I chose to run up the hill, up the side of the gorge.
And there were 6 other people there?
And
so did they go with you, or?
So 2 of them ran back the way we came from, and they didn't get burnt. 2 guys jumped through the fire. Yeah, and
what happened to those guys?
They got burnt. They weren't as badly burnt, and Kate was the other woman who was badly injured. We got burnt to 65% of our body.
And so you're running up this gorge, right?
Yeah.
And what, it encapsulates you? It just surrounds you all of a sudden? Or how
surrounds me, and I just remember looking down, my hands and arms, they were both ablaze. And I just thought, this is it. I'm never going to see Michael again. Now, once the fire had passed, I was...
So how long did that go on for?
Yeah, I think a couple of seconds, 5 seconds. I'm not sure.
And do you pass out? Or
no.
How do you get
after the
you
fire
roll on
passed,
the ground? Or?
How did I get the flames out?
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't know.
You go into like a fugue state, right? Like some kind of crazy...
Total shock. Like,
right.
Is this a dream? Did that really just happen? You know? And then I actually got this sense of elation because I was like, I've survived. Like, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to go to hospital. They'll bandage me up. I'll be back at work on Monday. I was in that semi-delusional state of mind, which is probably just my body's reaction to try and save my life.
Well, yeah, like the adrenaline rush. Probably.
Adrenaline, and I was just off my head. I had no grasp on time or space.
Right.
So we actually were stuck on that hillside for 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and that...
We, like all 6 of you?
All 6 of us, and there were some other competitors as well.
Because people coming up from behind are discovering you, right?
Yeah. So we end up waiting for 4 hours. A helicopter comes. The helicopter has to balance on one skid. First they take Kate, and I was like, hello.
Right.
I'm here. Like, why aren't you taking... Hello. Yeah.
4 hours.
That whole ego thing.
Why did it take so long? They didn't know what was going on, or?
Yeah, I think just due to the location. You know, there was not very good communication. Like I said, there was no mobile phone reception, that type of thing. So...
How many people were in this ultra?
There was, I think, around 50 people Yeah, so it wasn't huge.
Right.
Wasn't huge. So when I got picked up in the helicopter, I went to hospital. I said to the doctors and
hold on a second though. For those 4 hours, do you remember, like, what were you doing? Like, were you alert or were you passed out, or do you remember? Like, I mean, that's a long time.
It is, but when you don't have a firm grasp on reality, 4 hours could have been 4 minutes. It could have been 40 minutes. It could have been, well, couldn't have been 4 days, but you know, I had no idea.
I mean, the survival, instinct must have kicked in pretty powerfully, but there's only so long you can keep that adrenaline coursing through your veins before you kind of...
So I think towards that end of the 4 hours, I was like starting to pass out, and the people who I was with were like, no, Turia, wake up. They would talk to me about work or just something really mundane, and
just to keep you
just to keep me lucid.
Right.
Yeah. And I think though, if the helicopter wasn't able to extricate Kate and myself, I don't think we would be here.
Right.
Yeah. Because we were starting to swell quite badly. We didn't have any water, no pain medication. I think the helicopter got there just on dark too. And I mean, full credit to that helicopter pilot though. He wasn't a medical helicopter. He was just a normal...
Just like an average helicopter
regular,
dude, right?
Well,
pilot guy?
Not that helicopter pilot's ever average, but he was just...
He's not a paramedic, though.
He wasn't a paramedic because he was a regular bloke. He had a wife at home. He had a 6-week-old baby. They're not supposed to balance on one skid,
Right.
So he risked his life to save me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he gets you in.
Again, another example of someone doing something completely selfless. And, even when I was trapped by the fire, I was really scared. And I said to one of the blokes who I literally just met in that life and death situation, he had his son there, and he saw that I was upset, and he took precious seconds to comfort me. Another act of total selflessness.
Right. That made a huge difference. I mean, I would imagine your life was very much in the balance. I mean, 4 hours with the extensive, the extent to which you were burned.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
so the helicopter landed in the little town of Kona. I walked from the helicopter into hospital.
You walked?
I walked. Well, they were kind of like stuffing around, like trying to get the ambulance around, and in the end, I just thought, stuff this.
All right,
I like hopped out of the helicopter and started walking into the hospital, because in my head I was fine. I was going to be back at work in a couple of days.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I was like,
the power of denial.
Just bandage me up, and I want to go. I want to go home. And in the hospital, they weren't really taking me seriously. I was like, can someone call Michael? Like, I need to get out of here. I want to get going.
Wow, you were really not tapped into what was
No,
actually
I was adamant
happening.
that I was out of there. Like, and then
did they have a burn unit in this hospital?
So the town is really small, Kona. There's probably about 5,000 people who live there. So they put a needle in me, and I woke up a month later in a hospital in Sydney. And
they induce a coma?
Induced coma, yeah. Induced coma, yeah. So behind the scenes, I'd been flown to Darwin, been flown to Sydney. Michael had literally flown all over the country to make sure he was with me. They flew in skin from America.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So with burns patients, because such a large proportion of me was burnt, they
couldn't graft you. They couldn't graft from somewhere else.
No, so what
on
they
your
normally
body.
do is, if you get burnt, they take a skin graft from your back and they put it on your arm. But because I'd been burnt to the majority of my body, they didn't have it. They didn't have enough skin to take from anywhere, and so what they did is they got donor skin from the US. And that skin flew to Australia.
And is it have to be like is there like a matching process, like with an organ?
No, because the skin is only used as a temporary bandage.
I see.
Yeah. So they
just to prevent infection until your own skin can grow over it.
Exactly. So the thing is that when the skin landed in Australia, customs wouldn't let it through, because that was the first time skin had ever been imported to Australia.
What is this?
Yeah, and so my surgeons were on the phone saying, look, if we don't get this skin by this afternoon, this patient will be dead.
How much skin was it? Like,
I don't know,
so that it
but
could cover a large portion
well,
of
I was burnt to 65% of my body, so I don't know, like half of me. But the interesting thing was it was all different colours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was from multiple donors.
Multiple donors. Yeah, actually, when I went to the US, I found out that there was actually 16 different donors.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And how does somebody contribute that? Is it because they've perished and they've contributed their organs?
Yeah, so and I guess this is why it's really important for people to be registered
as an organ
an organ and tissue donor, yeah.
So 16 people. And so explain to me basically the situation that yourself and somebody who, you know, has suffered like you have is in when you're in an induced coma and what you're like a couple weeks, you know, or maybe even a week or two out of this burn event.
Yeah.
I mean, what, you know, your tissue is exposed. Obviously infection is, you know, huge. That's a major thing, right? But like what exactly is going on?
In my mind?
No, just like physically.
Oh, physically?
Yeah. I mean, you weren't awake yet, so there's nothing going on in your mind,
yeah,
right?
I was thinking, I was having a lot of crazy dreams.
Yeah.
Well, I was on
They're
morphine.
probably really crazy drugs, right?
Yeah, I was on a crazy amount of drugs. Like what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, like I just want to understand like
Yeah.
how, you know, the sort of situation of somebody who's been burned so extensively, like what they're actually looking at.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that because I was asleep and I haven't really investigated it thoroughly. But, you know I had multiple operations. You know, they would graft skin areas. Sometimes it didn't take, so I'd have to go back in for another operation. I think I've had over 200 operations now. You know, they had to
200.
Yeah.
Since, and this was 2000, like fall 2011?
Yeah, 2011. And so when you get put under anesthetic, they could do maybe 5 things on you. So maybe like 50 general anesthetics.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can't overdo it or they put your life in peril, right? So they have to space these out.
Yeah, well, actually, I passed away 3 times. I actually did die 3 times on the operating table.
Wow. Is that while you were in the induced coma or?
Yeah, that was in the early stages. And so, you know, for Michael and my family, that would have been tremendously hard because, you know, my family, they're realists, but they're also pretty positive as well. And to hear the doctor say, well, I don't know, she might not make it, like, I can't really tell you anything more than that. That would have been pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah. And flatlining for how long, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
So
probably what's flatlining? Like
when your heart stops beating.
Yeah. I don't know. I might find that out though.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
You should ask your doctor.
Yeah. I'll ask my doctors.
But just to kind of, for people that are listening, who are unfamiliar with the story, so what 65% of your body is third degree burns?
Yes,
or how do you
degree.
describe it? And you've lost some digits, some fingers. It's across your arms, your face, your legs, your torso.
Yeah.
That's essentially it.
Yeah.
And so skin grafting and the healing process and all the surgeries that go into like trying to, you know, put Turia back together.
Yeah. And I think the hardest thing about being in hospital was, you know, recovering from a burns injury. It's really long. So a lot of people go to hospital, they get fixed up, they leave and they're all better. But when you have a really big burn like mine, it's a really long process. So, you know, years, not months. And it's also really painful. It's out of this world, excruciating, all-encompassing, takes over your mind and body.
Like you can't move at all, right? Without pain?
Well, you can't move at all, and then they have to change your bandages every day.
Right.
And that's like a torture ritual that would be inflicted on me every day.
Yeah. So you're in the induced coma for, did you say a month?
About a month.
About a month. So when you come to, and you come into an awareness of what had actually happened, like what's going on with you mentally at that point?
I think probably there's an aspect of denial there too.
Like, why am I still in the hospital?
Well, I remember, the nurses were saying, oh, it'd be good for you and Michael to plan a holiday after this is all over. And my accident happened in September. So I would just harass Michael every day. I'd say, I want to go to Antarctica. Like, book that trip. We've got to go on that holiday. And he'd be like, yeah.
Maybe
you're not, he was thinking, you're not going to be out of here by Christmas time. But I was just so adamant that...
So you just weren't... It's almost like the defense mechanism in you was so strong, like you weren't able to hear what the doctors and everybody was telling you?
Yeah, and I guess I'm not putting blame on my doctors or the medical staff because they are phenomenal. They're amazing. They've put me back together. But I also think it's not in their interests to be positive because they don't want to tell someone, yeah, you'll be running again, you'll be active again, you'll be able to do everything that you used to do. Because maybe sometimes that won't happen. And the patient could get really angry. So they said...
What were they telling you?
You won't be able to run again. You'll need a carer for the rest of your life. You'll have to readjust your expectations. But then they'd say, oh, on the bright side, you might get a job again. You might drive again. You might get married. Mm-hmm. And I'm not belittling those things, but it pissed me off because I'd always been such a high achiever and a go-getter. And I felt because I'd had this accident, everyone's expectations of me had just plummeted. Mm-hmm. So no one expected anything from me anymore.
So was that your reaction immediately upon hearing that news, like a refusal to accept that would be your fate? Or did you have like a period of like...
Yo-yos, up and down. Yeah. So some days I'd think, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm going to rebuild myself. I'm going to be the biggest, baddest person on the planet. And then the next day I'd say, oh, nah, this is too hard. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. So it was just...
I would imagine you had to have moments of like, why me? How is this happening?
For sure,
I can't believe this. Like, my life is over.
And people always want to know like what the pivotal moment was. But there was no pivotal moment. It's not like one morning I woke up and I said, I'm going to be super strong for the rest of my life. It was just day in, day out, working towards walking 50 meters, working towards being able to do a flight of stairs. I think it was really about, and you would know this with all your training and the same thing with training for Ironman, it's about consistency. Mm-hmm. So just doing something every day. Some days you feel like you're going good, some days you don't know if you're making any progress at all. But over the long term, you see results.
Yeah, true in sport and truer in life.
Yeah, and I guess I was blessed in some ways because the people around me, Michael, my mum, my dad, my brothers, they were all believers. Mm-hmm. So when I said to them, I'm going to do an Ironman one day, they didn't say, well, come on, Turia, be realistic. The doctor said you won't be able to run again and you'll need a carer for the rest of your life. They just said, oh, cool, like, let's go.
How long after the burn did you announce that you wanted to do an Ironman?
This is about maybe 2 months. Uh-huh. I had no idea what an Ironman was. I had no idea.
You run an ultra. You must have, and you're Australian. You must know what it is.
No, I didn't because I wasn't really. And I remember a couple of guys at work used to do Ironman events, and I'd think in my head, why would you want to do that? That sounds really boring. Uh-huh. That's what this is coming from someone who does ultras. But anyway,
they can be really boring.
I found the Ironman.
You found that out,
I found
right?
it really boring. Yeah. So I think, obviously, I'm very determined. I had a lot of self-belief, and I'm quite a resilient person. But
where does that come from?
I think it's just my mindset.
Is it the way you were raised? Is it
definitely,
just something you came out of the womb like this?
No, I don't think anyone is just naturally.
So how did your parents raise you so that you can view the world in this positive way?
Okay, so for example, my mum had 4 kids at home. She had a full-time job and she wrote novels. And every night when I'd go to sleep, I could hear her typing away on her keyboard.
That's
and
amazing.
Then her first book got rejected 14 times. And as you do when you get rejected 14 times, you write another book. And her second book became a commercial success. It was published all over the world, translated in around 10 different languages. So that lesson to me, it showed me that if you work hard for something and you're persistent and you persevere and you believe in yourself, you see results.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was really old school. He had a really tough love approach. So he had 2 rules when we were kids. The first rule was no whinging.
What does that mean?
No whinging. Oh, like no.
That's like an Australian.
Yeah, it's Australian. It's like no complaining.
Uh-huh.
And his second rule was no bloody whinging.
Uh-huh.
That's a really Australian saying.
Hard to please, dude.
Yeah, no, but it was just like if you're not, you either change your circumstances, and if you're not willing to do that, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear you whinge or complain. So when I was a kid, my brother and I, we missed the bus to school, so we wagged school. Do you know what wag?
What does that mean?
We skipped school. We didn't go to school.
Australians have a nickname for everything.
Yeah, we do, don't we? We're unique like that. And then Dad found out, and he was furious. He dug a trench in the backyard. My brother and I had to run from our house 10 minutes down to the beach, grab a handful of sand, run the 10 minutes home, put it in the trench, and we weren't allowed to finish until
the trench was full?
Until the trench was full.
That's intense.
That's intense, but yeah, his style of parenting was really intense, but I'm grateful for that because it's part of what makes me who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's why I don't whinge. It's why I don't complain. It's why I've got to, you've got to get up and go and proactive approach to things.
Persistence and no complaining. That's, that's a pretty powerful combination to combat what you were facing.
Exactly, yeah.
But I would also, did he ever say, all right, you can complain a little bit? Like, it's
No,
okay
never.
for you, even in the wake of all of this?
Oh,
He
sorry.
never gave you a minute where he said, it's okay, you can complain for 5 minutes.
After my accident? No, well,
Yeah.
that was sort of more Mum's job.
Uh-huh.
My mum's from Tahiti. She's a beautiful woman. She's very loving. Everyone who meets her falls in love with her, and they say, "Oh, your mum is so awesome." So I would, cry to Mum. When Dad came to the hospital, it was like very serious.
Right.
We've got to go get you doing squats or whatever. And Mike,
Moving forward, looking forward.
yeah, well, we can't do anything
future.
about it. You've been burnt, so what else can we do? And Michael, my partner, was probably the best out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
He was amazing.
Michael, can you he's sitting over here. Can you come over here? Yeah, I should have set up a third mic for you.
He was there with me every day.
Here, pull up a chair for a second, because I want to know what it was like. Here, hand him the mic for a second. I want to know what this was like for you. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing that you were able to show up for Turia and be by her side, throughout the entire thing, and then you guys you're married now, or you're engaged?
No, we're engaged.
You're engaged,
so, yeah,
right?
we'll get
Congrats
married
on that.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Yeah. But it had to be, traumatic and terrifying.
It was everything you said. It's heartbreaking. But the thing is, with something like this, and I realise it's not only Turia and I that go through accidents. Accidents happen every day, and every family experiences them. So you just have to sort of step up to the plate. And the way we did it, we just sort of believed in each other. And, I was such a realist, and I was like, this has happened and there's no point crying about it. But what we can do is we can help Turia to walk and hold her hand while she walks up a flight of stairs. And every day you'd see a little bit of improvement, and that would make you and your heart feel like you're actually doing a job and you're achieving something. So it was a team effort. But yeah, it was very bloody hard. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of families go through it, and they obviously don't get the recognition that Turia and I have, because the media in Australia found it a fascinating incident, and they were really positive towards us, and they've shone a beautiful light upon Turia, which was amazing. So I do thank them for that, but also the media can be terrible, as you know. So
yeah. Well, the paparazzi side of it, mean, right? Being too sort of up in your business about everything that's going on.
Yeah, well, they just shone a light for everybody to see what had happened. But I mean, if it didn't happen as an ultramarathon out in the desert, nobody would know about Turia being burnt. So, what I'm trying to say is these things happen, and we've just had a positive feedback, a spotlight from the media, which, it's helped Turia to sort of keep moving forward. And yeah.
And so Turia, you were in the hospital for how long?
6 months.
6 months. And so during that period, Michael, I would imagine your life had to be put on hold completely, right?
So
because you were in Sydney during that, yeah, or no?
Kona.
Oh, okay, all right.
I was a mining engineer.
I see.
Yeah.
And so you were like a police officer?
Yeah.
Right. And so did you have to take like extensive time off
I
from
resigned.
work, or like?
I resigned.
You resigned.
And then the accident happened, and then I just dropped everything, and I thought, if she could get through the rehabilitation and the physiotherapy that was asked upon her, it was quite easy for me to be alongside her every day and help her. All I had to do was be there. So the doctors were quite ruthless. They said, she's going to be here for 6 months, and it's 2 years of rehabilitation, and then in 5 years' time she won't know herself. She'll be, going great. So I just believed in them, and I just put myself there for her to rebound off. And to be honest, looking from the outside, I can see it might be sort of a big thing, but it was quite easy at the time that it happened. Yeah, to do that.
What was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part was when I saw her walk for the first time, because before that, I remember her running long distances. I used to go running with her 20 Ks of an afternoon, and then to see her in hospital and the nurses get her up and she can't even walk 3 steps and she's just howling in pain. I mean, that broke me as a man, and I had to walk away and actually had a few tears in the corner at that stage, and that really hurt me.
And so what did you have to do, like, for yourself to be able to kind of deal with this on a daily basis? Like, just to be the support that that she needed you to be?
Yeah, well, everybody's got their own sort of therapy and remedy in situations like this. And for me, it was the ocean. Like, I would go down for swims and jump in there, and I could scream underwater, and sometimes I would just catch a wave, and that would be a relief for me to get in there and have the salt on my skin and the wind in my hair. And so that was my remedy. Some people get counselling, some people they do exercise. My remedy was the ocean, and that was very therapeutic throughout the whole process, and it did help me.
Was there any aspect of this where sometimes they create like community where there's other people that are going through the same thing, like, here, talk to this guy, he's going through it, or like, they have, like, cancer survivors have that.
Yeah.
There's all,
Look, I think the rehabilitation for anybody that's bad here in Australia, it's unfortunate that it's pretty poor. There's not that many services that support. And there was a chaplain that came around and tried to talk to me, but to be honest, I didn't have any interest in speaking to him. I could speak to my family and my friends, and that was my way of a release. Right. And, I'd go for runs as well, and that was really good, the exercise and to keep my mind healthy. And swimming was probably the best exercise I could do, because you go for an hour swim, as you get out and you feel invincible, and you start fresh again.
Absolutely. Well, I think it would be no surprise to you, and I'm sure you work with all these other people that are experiencing things similar to what you guys have endured collectively as a couple. And I would imagine you've seen relationships dissolve or break up over this sort of thing, right? Yeah. So it's either it's gonna go one of two ways. It's either gonna bring you closer, or it's gonna blow you apart, right? So why do you, and I'm interested in both of your perspectives on this, like, why do you think it brought you guys closer together? Like, what did you do that allowed you to kind of weather this and get to this place where you have this great relationship and you're getting married, whereas you've seen other people like splitting up?
That's I can't really speak for anyone else. I can just sort of say that it was tough, and like I know people have seen us to be happy and smiling all the time, but there is times when you're sad, and you do sort of fight with one another. But I think that's generally a healthy relationship. I'm sure you and your you have arguments
fight all the time, Yeah. Anybody who says they don't fight, that's not a good sign. They're either lying or they're not being honest. Or they're not like being honest with each other, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm very honest with Michael.
And so ours did involve all that. Like, there was arguments. There was times I wanted to walk away, and there was times Turia wanted to walk away from me, and it was tough. And I think sometimes people always say to me, bad things sometimes happen to people who, have to be tested. And I think, for some reason, this unfortunate accident happened to Turia, and it tested her, and it tested our relationship immensely. And, we've come out shining at the end of the journey, and we're pretty stoked where we are at the moment, and we're pretty proud of how we've sort of kept our relationship together through such a traumatic event.
Yeah, and it's given you an opportunity to be able to be of service to other people in a really profound and meaningful way. So when you look upon this, it's sort of like the universe puts this in front of you, and you can be a victim, or you can, he's standing around. No, I might want you back. Sit down. You can shrink from it and be the victim, or you can rise to the challenge and understand that perhaps there is a silver lining in this, and something to be learned that can be shared. When you look on it now, are you able to like access that kind of gratitude for it? Like, do you wish it, if you could do it all over again, I wish that never happened? Or do you look at it and say, this is a gift because now I get to do this thing that I didn't think I was going to be able to do with my life? Like, how do you perceive it?
Yeah, well, I think that comes back to that reframing technique that I was talking about earlier. I could look at it and say, I wish it never happened. It changed my whole life. Or I could say, this traumatic thing happened to me, but it's given me so much. It's made my relationship with Michael way more profound and deeper. It's given me a new appreciation for my family and friends and community. They're all so awesome. I'm able to travel all around the world now and do what I love to do. I can compete in crazy events such as Ironman Kona. I've got a profile and a platform. So if I talk about Interplast, I'm able to galvanise people to raise money for that. And when you look at those two options, I know which one I would choose.
What was the plan before? Like, what was the career path that you had?
I was a mining
envisioned
engineer. And engineering is a very male-dominated industry, and mining engineering even more so. So in my class, I was 80 blokes and 4 girls. And I really loved it. Because you got to work in cool places in Australia, in the middle of nowhere, with nothing around you. I love places like that. And I was really happy with my career. I wanted to be a mining manager or move my way up through the company. But at the same time, it wasn't emotionally fulfilling either. And I recognised that after I was only working as an engineer for about a year. I studied at uni for about 5 years. And even after a year, I became a little disillusioned with it. Because I thought I've studied my ass off to get here. I don't really know if here is where I want to be. Yeah.
Right. But the connection that you get with what you do now in terms of like, how it impacts people.
I feel like everything's magnified.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But do you also, I would presume that you feel like a responsibility because this happened and because you have this experience and because you've been able to kind of, transcend it, with the accomplishments that you have done that packed into that is this sort of call to action to be this beacon of, strength for other people that are struggling. Do you feel that?
I guess I do feel a little bit of responsibility, but I also don't take myself too seriously. And if you follow me on Instagram or whatever, I've got a pretty wicked sense of humour. And do you have that expression, take the piss?
Yeah, I know what that means.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I do.
Yeah. So like I like to take the piss and, pay myself out. Because I think as well, we can get into the habit of taking everything so serious, and we're all so busy and we're all so important. And I think when you just have a laugh with your mates and relax and remember that we only get one life and we've got to enjoy it as well as making a difference, we've also got to enjoy.
But I think that's important also in terms, I think, of disarming people when you first meet them. Because people don't know how to act, or they're
Yeah, people might be a little awkward, maybe. And so I just probably do crack a few jokes just to let them know that
it's okay.
I'm still a human. It's okay. You can relax. Yeah. And, people always ask if I've had such a good sense of humour. And I reckon I have. It's just that perhaps it's developed more because of what I've been through, because I realise that if I want to disarm people and I want to break through to them, I need to get them a bit, relaxed. Does that make sense?
It does. But when you say that, I can't help but think, I think I see an amazing person in that, because a lot of people would just become bitter and angry and resentful.
Yeah, but I chose not to be.
But again, it goes back to that, like, how do you make that choice?
I make that choice every day, every morning, or throughout the day.
But they're saying that you're going to do it, and then actually like feeling it, like embodying that,
there is a difference.
practicing that.
There is a difference for sure.
Is there an act as if, like, you do it until you feel it, or do you honestly feel it?
No, I say it out loud. Because, it's easy to think, okay, I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to be happy. But there's a huge difference in actually verbalizing it, saying it out loud, and saying it like you mean it.
Mm-hmm.
So I say to myself, is today going to be a good day or a bad day, Turia? Like, it's your choice, your call. You choose.
And do you ever say, yeah, it's going to be a bad day?
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Uh-huh.
And then I say to myself, well, if you want it to be a bad day or a bad morning, we'll just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Be in a bad mood.
But then don't complain about being in a bad mood.
Yeah, don't complain to me that you're in such a bad mood, and why can't you fix me because I'm in a bad mood and I need you to cheer me up.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the rehabilitation. You're trying to, as Michael explained, like the painful, first steps of trying to learn how to walk again and all of that. Like, is that the skin is just so taut and damaged, or is the muscles atrophy?
The muscles are atrophied. The skin is damaged. It's a skill that I haven't practiced in a month. So if you're lying flat for a month, your muscles and just that skill, that balance, that sense of balance, it's going to be lost. And so when I was in this state of delusion, I'm going to be fine, everything's going to be okay. And then when I stood up to walk, I was like, no, things aren't going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Things are actually going to be really, really bloody long and really bloody tough. And what people have been saying to me, they might actually be on the right track.
Mm. Do you think that your experience as an ultramarathoner played into your ability to kind of approach the rehabilitation?
I think for sure, because I've always loved sports and loved challenging myself. So I think if you're not someone who's involved with sports, you might never have experienced that sensation when you're uncomfortable, you want to quit, but you just keep going. Mm-hmm. So I think 100% it played a huge role.
And when you were doing that, were you thinking like someday I'm going to run a marathon again, or I'm going to run like I used to run? Like you had you held that vision for yourself.
I would be walking like a grandma, saying to myself, "Yeah, one day you're gonna be running a marathon. You're gonna be doing this. You're gonna be doing that." And
are you somebody who? Sorry to interrupt,
no, that's
but
all
like
right.
I want to get to kind of behind the pull the covers back a little bit more on this. Like, are you somebody who lets everyone in on that goal, or are you somebody who kind of covets that quietly and says, I'll show them, but I'm going to keep, that's my secret, and that's, I hold, that's why it's powerful for me? Or do you just tell everyone and then it just becomes real because everyone has been notified?
Yeah, I like to tell everyone. So like even my first Ironman in Australia, I literally told every single person that I came across that I was doing it, and then I was like, shit, I actually have to.
Right. Because it creates an external accountability.
Exactly, yeah. And for me, the fear of being embarrassed or looking like a goose. Do you have that?
No.
Okay, well, you're looking like a bit of a kook. You say you're going to do something, then you don't do it.
Uh-huh.
I don't like being that person. So I like to say I'm doing something and then follow through. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for sure, a lot of people like to hold it internally and stew on it, and they make it happen that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this rehabilitation is going on for 2 years?
Yeah.
2 years, right? Do you have moments where you just feel like, okay, like I broke through, or is it just a gradual
Some days I think, yes, I've overcome everything. I've broken through. And then the next day I'd feel really crap and I'd go, okay, maybe I haven't broken through. And I always thought I would get to a stage where I'd be over it. And actually 2 years after the fire, I was playing my life pretty safe, and one of the guys from the fire was riding his bike. He was training for an adventure race, and he got hit by a truck and passed away. And that for me just really reinforced that there's no benefit to playing your life really safe, because I thought because I'd been through that fire, I'd be immune to further tragedy. Mm-hmm. But now I think if you don't live your life big, live it on your terms, take risks, bet big, believe in yourself, I don't really know if that's much of a life. It's not much of a life For me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you could cower and stay at home and watch daytime television, and everyone would say, "Oh, that's fine." Like nobody is going to.
No one would pull me up.
Exactly.
Everyone would say, "Well, she's been really badly burnt in a fire. That's why she's like that, and she's really fragile, and you have to be sensitive." And I hated that how people would walk around on their tippy toes around me, and it really frustrated me because I felt, I was like, I'm a grown woman. I'm an independent person. I know what's going on.
And so when do you decide you're going to do this? The first Ironman you did was Ironman Australia, right?
Yeah.
So
so I decided
I
decided that in hospital.
You did? You fill out? Did you sign up for it and stuff?
No, I decided that in hospital, and I said, so I did a cycle in Australia. I walked to the Great Wall of China.
Oh, so the Great Wall was before the Ironman.
That was before the Ironman, and I thought that would build up my legs for the marathon. And you
did that as a fundraiser.
That was a fundraiser for Interplast. And I did a swim in Kona, which is where the fire happened.
Right. Yeah, I saw some video of that as well. That was like a 20-kilometer swim.
Yeah, but
I wasn't sure which came first in the timeline. So.
No, that was earlier on.
I see.
And I did it in a team. So I didn't swim 20
Right, but you did it with the other burn victims, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it was cool. We came dead last. Like literally.
Yeah, but it's like in the class of people that have been devastatingly burned in a fire, you came in first.
So like two of the guys that didn't get burnt. Sorry, one of the guys didn't get burnt, and he was the worst.
He was the worst.
He was so bad. He told me he couldn't swim, but
that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was really annoyed. I was like, "We're going to come last because of you."
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So you must be really close with those people though. After having
and I guess it's a strange closeness because we love extreme events, and that's why we're in the ultramarathon, but we're not that similar in other aspects. But
you were it's like being in battle.
Sure.
Like you survived this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Only you guys know what that was like.
Yeah. Exactly. So we are really close. And then...
So those built up some confidence that
was building up confidence. So in my mind, I thought that's preparing me for the Ironman. And then I texted one of the blokes from the fire because he'd done about 10 Ironman events. And I said, "Who was your coach?" He put me onto the coach. I saw the coach. I sort of walked in there acting like I was way fitter than what I was. And Michael was like, "Turia, you've just got to be really honest. Like your furthest you can run at the moment is 4 kilometers, and you can probably swim a kilometer without stopping, and you can't even ride a bike without cleats. So just be really honest." So I was, and then he gave me a program.
And how long was the time period leading up to the race?
Like 15 months.
15 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So but still to go from not being able to run more than 4 kilometers to being able to do an Ironman, that's a mountain to climb.
Yeah. But I felt it was a really cathartic process for me because I've written books and people have asked if they've been cathartic, and they haven't really been that cathartic. But I think the process of training for something, when you get up every morning and you just do it, and there's an internal battle that goes on every day with your training. And I think the Ironman did a lot for me.
It's interesting that you found catharsis in the training and not in the sort of divulging through the books and the writing.
Because the book was all looking backwards. And I was thinking, I don't want to go through it again.
So the catharsis is in kind of shedding, to
it was
coin a terrible metaphor to shed another skin, right?
Yeah, and it was like, who are you?
Right.
Like this is your chance to prove yourself. This is where you have to step up. People think you're just a burns victim, and this is your opportunity to show no.
Did you have a sense that? You're getting a lot of press, right? So you had this idea people are paying attention, and you have an opportunity to be this inspirational figure. So how much of it is oriented around that versus for yourself?
All of it was for myself. Yeah, the whole journey. I was going to say it's a selfish sport. It was a selfish sport for me because it was all consuming. It took over everything.
And Michael, how was that when she was training all the time for trying to get? Were you like supportive, or you like
It was amazing.
she's insane, or
It was amazing.
I was supportive because it was good to see her rehabilitating her body back to where she was before. So that was a beautiful thing.
and looking forward?
Yeah, and
No.
looking forward. So I mean, she, like I said, I would have way rather watched her be rehabilitated and train for the Ironman than sit in a corner and cry. So it was beautiful.
Yeah. But man, we had some huge blow-ups.
Yeah.
You know, because some days my bike wouldn't be working properly and I'd be like, you've got to fix it. I have to train. I need to do this. And yeah, well, you get kind of stressed and anxious, and I'd get annoyed if there wasn't.
Michael's got to take care of this for me, right? But like during the rehabilitation process, like you like literally had to like dress her, right? Like it's not like it was a very hands-on, like full blown job situation.
I remember once he was getting my clothes ready for the morning, and I was like, no, I don't want to wear that. Don't want to wear that. Don't want to wear that. I was being a real...
Yeah. God damn it, just get dressed.
I was being really difficult. And finally, he just snapped. He, like, pulled all of my clothes out of the closet, threw them down on the bed and said, you do it. I'm out of here.
Well, at some point, you got to, like, learn how to do it.
I thought, okay, Turia, you've probably taken things a little too far this time.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm actually glad to hear stories like that.
Yeah, well, it's real, isn't it? It's real.
Yeah.
So so you're having to like sort of be her.
I was her carer.
Yeah.
But there was a stage though where I didn't have to do her toiletries for her, and that did help in a big way. But I was a carer, and I was comfortable doing that. And I took that upon myself. We could have got nurses and physiotherapists and that around to the house, but we didn't need to. I was more than happy to do that because every day I would see an increase in her rehabilitation. She would be able to do something. She'd put a bra on, for instance, and I'd be like, oh, you couldn't do that yesterday. And before I knew it, she was dressing herself, and I walked away from that position.
Right.
And I mean, it's the cool thing about, I don't know if it's cool, but even 5 years on, there's still things that I'm learning to do all over again. So even using hair scrunchies, like I just figured out how to do that a couple of months ago, and I was like, Michael, like, look what I can do now. How awesome is this? It's weird. It's because it's so simple, but I think we're always reminded not to take those things for granted. Yeah.
Well, beyond the kind of dexterity with your hands and the kind of atrophy of the muscles that you had to combat, and the sort of tensile strength of your skin and all of that, is there like internal organ damage that you have to deal with, or all of that is like all okay?
No, it's all fine internally. The one thing about being burnt is you can't regulate your body temperature.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big deal in Ironman, especially in Kona.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Kona was so hard.
Right, because you don't sweat the same way, right?
That's what one of the functions of your skin is. If you're hot, you sweat to cool yourself down. I don't sweat on 65% of my body. So that's
a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
As an endurance athlete, as any kind of athlete.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also, like, this is how I looked at it too. Yeah, it's a problem, but I had to be creative enough and imaginative enough to think of solutions.
So what are the solutions to that?
So, for example, in Ironman, it was really simple. Each aid station, I'd stop, pour water over myself, douse myself with cold water, and that made the race take longer because I had to continually stop. I wore a heart rate monitor so I could monitor my heart rate, and if it started going too high, I would know that I just have to slow down and back off the pace.
Right.
So those things compromise my athletic abilities, but it still does mean that I can do them. So instead of saying, well, I can't do endurance events, I've been burnt, can't do it, I just saw it as my job to, try and think of solutions. And
that's one I would have not thought of, but that's probably the biggest limiter.
that was the swim was really hard.
Yeah.
Because, your hand is your paddle. My hands are a lot smaller.
Right.
So it's like, when you do swimming drills with fists.
Yeah.
A bit like that.
Yeah.
So that was hard. The bike was hard because, going up a hill, I can't get out of my saddle. So that...
And also you have a very tenuous grip on the handlebars, right? It's going to be dangerous.
So if I go too fast, I'm like, okay, just slow down, Turia. You're not trying to break the land speed record.
Right, like that descent from Hawi
Yeah. I was
into Kauai High with the winds, the sideways
it was
winds
crazy.
had to be really scary.
Yeah. But I thought, like, I did the exercise, what's the worst thing that can happen? I wrote it down, like, the worst thing that could happen on that descent was that I got picked up by the wind and thrown into the rock cutting. Might have meant that I would maybe break a bone, maybe not be able to finish the race. It's not much of a disincentive to not try. Yeah.
And you didn't fall.
No, I didn't fall, but I was riding like a grandma.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty cautious.
You would have to. I mean, it's even for the most experienced riders, it's hair raising.
Well, also as well, I'm not a cyclist. I haven't touched my bike.
Well, actually, you are a cyclist because you've done 2 Ironmans, so you can own that.
I haven't touched my bike since Kona.
Uh-huh.
It's like still in the garage with the number on it and everything.
That's all right. So, did you have doctors that were supportive or telling you like this is dangerous, or were they constructively trying to help you come up with these solutions, or were you just doing your?
Not really my doctors, because they're pretty busy. They've got burns patients coming out
you
of it.
Can't be bothered with your Ironman.
Their ears are like, look, if you want to go do something stupid and crazy, knock yourself out.
Stop you.
Knock yourself out, Turia. We know we can't stop you. One of my doctors was so annoying. He was always on at me to put on weight. And I was arguing with him because I was like, I'm training for an Ironman. Like, I can't actually put on weight at the moment. Mm-hmm. So he was a little bit annoying. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. But also they didn't really care at hospital. They were just like, whatever.
So 15 months, and you go to Ironman Australia.
Yeah.
And you toe the starting line.
Yeah, I was freaking out.
Make it through. Like, what's the hardest part that you had? Yeah, like it had to be.
The hardest part of that whole day was waiting to start.
Yeah.
It's like with anything, like when you're nervous or anxious before you do a presentation or whatever, that period before you're actually about to start is the worst.
But you put the training in. Did you go in confident that you were going to be able to?
Look, my coach was there on the day. He came with me, and he's a really, really beautiful man. He was really helpful for me throughout the whole process. And he just said, look, you've done the work. You're not trying to break any records. Just go out and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got all day.
Yeah. And like 500 meters into the swim, I just thought, you've got this in the bag. Like, you'll be able to do this, which was not my experience in Kona.
So, all right. Well, I want to get to that. So you basically cruise through this Ironman?
Well, not, I say cruise, like it's a walk in the park.
You had it in the bag?
Yeah. Like there was some tough points for sure, but the whole day I was just frothing out because I was finally doing something which I'd trained so hard for. And
you got it done. You did like 13, 14
I did 13
hours?
and a half,
13 and a half hours?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, so I was pretty proud of myself.
That's incredible. And so Kona, how does Kona come into the picture after that? Were you always thinking, like, if I do this, I'm going to figure out how to get to Kona?
I tell people that I wasn't, and I'm like, I got invited to Kona. What a big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was the plan all along.
I was telling my team, I was like, I want to get to Kona. Like, you have to make this happen. Like, I really want to do Kona. So we get to Hawaii. It's out of this world hot. The temperatures over there are insane. It was like we landed. Yeah. It was like being in a microwave. And I straight away started to think, okay, you've probably bitten off more than you can chew here. Just because of the heat and the conditions. It's so windy. Michael came on a few training rides with me. No, don't want to say anything.
Yeah. But you're starting to second guess, like whether this might
really
be a little bit too much.
Really started to second guess myself, yeah.
And just knowing that even like, when you hear Chris McCormick talk about how he could not figure out how to get his hydration sorted out, because of the heat, like it fells even the best of the best.
Yeah, and so that whole day from about halfway through the swim, halfway through the swim, I was throwing up. On my bike, I couldn't keep any of my fluids down or any of my food. And as I was riding back into town, I was just in a really delirious, incoherent state. on the run course, halfway through the run, I was asking volunteers to take off my helmet.
Did you? Wow. So you were super out of it.
I was out of it, yeah.
You weren't able to keep anything down throughout?
Obviously, I was.
Right,
I was able
but
to.
you're still having stomach issues the entire time.
Yeah, I kept throwing up. I think that was because of the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your body's ability to absorb those things is completely different. And if you're not able to, cool your body temp down through perspiration, you're just getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
That was another thing. When I came back from that descent, they actually ran out of water at the aid stations. And that was part of my heat management plan, yeah.
And all the wind, from that descent, is you're not getting the relief of the cooling.
No, of the
right? Because you don't have the sweat.
The air against the sweat. That's what cools you down.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't get to have that experience.
No. And then I get to an aid station, I ask for water, and they're like, oh man, we don't have
How do they not have water? It's an Ironman World Championships.
Well, yeah, okay, well, look, I was probably a lot slower than most of the people.
You weren't that much slow. Listen, there are people coming in at, midnight all the time.
Well, I think for most competitors, they'd say, okay, no worries, I'll have a Gatorade or whatever.
Right.
But I was using the water to cool myself down, which was a large difference between me and the other competitors. And so when we got to the bottom of the descent, I saw a police officer and I stopped him and I said, man, I need water. And he ran to his car. He gave me 3 bottles of super cold water.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But that was really nice. You had to find a cop to do that.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's amazing. Well, the other thing I think people that have not been to Kona don't realize
Well, people think it's just like Hawaii. People say, I've been to Hawaii, it's not that hot.
And they watch the Ironman World Championships on television, and it all looks super fun and awesome and beautiful and all
fun.
that. And that Queen K just goes on forever. It is the least, after a while, you're I get it. The scenery doesn't change, for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and there's no support. The majority of the day, you're by yourself.
I didn't know. Is that true? Wow.
Yeah, and when you're running out to the energy lab, it's just you. Mm-hmm. There is no one on the sidelines screaming. That was the thing about Australia. There were so many supporters and there were so many people screaming my name, and I felt like, I was doing it for everyone. There was no one.
You're just on your own.
On my own.
And you're
in the
asking
dark.
people to take your helmet off when you're running.
Yeah, and I was running in the dark thinking, you're an idiot, Turia. Why do you do these things to yourself? Uh-huh. Just berating myself.
So how did you get it done? How did you overcome all that?
Being in that mindset definitely did not help me. So being in that really negative state of, you're an idiot, this is stupid, that didn't help me. I tried to use gratitude to think of things that I was grateful for, and that didn't work. Because I was like, well, why would I be grateful? I'm on this stupid course and it's bloody hard and I'm all by myself. And so I just mentally broke it up. I just took it on the run, aid station by aid station, so each 2 kilometers.
Just break it down into its tiniest components.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think also it helps to, in my experience, to understand, when you're entertaining those thoughts, that they're just
thoughts.
That you can disassociate with your thinking mind and understand that if you can become the observer of those thoughts, then you have a choice to entertain them and allow them to impact you, or to try to get the upper hand and dismiss them.
So I probably should have done more mental training, because when you're tired, it's really hard to think those sorts of things. And you train so much that you're an autopilot. But I didn't do as much training for my brain, right? Which, if I ever did Kona again, I would definitely do.
So you're not making an official announcement about that?
No, I don't want to do Kona again.
That was it?
I don't want to do it again.
So, but you ended up finishing in 14 plus, right? So you weren't even that much slower than you were your first one.
I was an hour slower.
All right. But, when you consider the wind and the heat and all of that,
yeah, I mean, I was way more proud of myself after Kona. Because throughout the whole day, I just wanted to quit. Throughout the whole day, I was so uncomfortable. I just thought, I want someone to run me over with a car so I don't have to do this race. I don't want to be here. And I just found it in me to keep taking that next step.
Were you still doing it for yourself, or were you able to kind of tap into the strength of understanding, like, I'm carrying a message for other people and I can allow that to, like, you know?
Yeah, for sure. There was a
carry
lot
me
of
a little
reflection there. Like, I thought a lot about the donors who ultimately saved my life, and I thought a lot about Interplast and all the work that they do, and thought a lot about Michael, my family, and my mum, and I thought, I want my mum to know that I'm okay, that she doesn't need to worry about me anymore. So,
yeah, I think it's you know, it's easy for someone like myself or somebody who comes across your story to just imagine it's about you and you're the one who's had to endure and suffer this. But everybody that is in your life has had to participate in this with you. It's very much a group kind of
and I
thing.
think in some parts it's been almost harder for them because, you know, being the person who's injured, you get all of the sympathy and the attention, and everything's about you. And it's really traumatic for us to see people that we love in pain. You know, you'd give anything not to have someone that you love in pain.
And so when you reflect on your story and the things that you've been able to achieve, you know, in light of being told you know, may never walk again, you know, what is the message that you want people to hear from you? Like, what is it that you want people to get from you and your story?
I think it's just that if they understand their mindset and they use it to their advantage, they can do absolutely anything. But the one thing that I'm most proud of is that my relationships with Michael and my family and friends are so much deeper and so much closer. I think that's really beautiful.
And Michael, what has been the impact of you seeing Turia conquer these events? Like, what is the impact of that on how you kind of perceive your own, you know, goals for your life and how you live on a daily basis? Or maybe it hasn't at all. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
it has. It's obviously made me a lot more empathetic for people who go through accidents, whereas before I thought we were invincible, and, you know, it doesn't ever happen to you, and it has, and we've lived through it. And so, yeah, I'm a lot more passionate about seeing people recover and sort of seeing them be happy again. So to see Turia happy, and that makes me happy. And it's very simple. Like, it's hard to sort of talk about, but when you see someone that you love in such despair and, you know, on their deathbed, and then you see them happy and laughing again, that melts your heart. It makes you really happy, and, you know, you feel invincible again, and life, you know, is there to be lived again. So that's what we're doing. And sometimes I get a bit of a kick up the arse from Turia because of all the things she's doing. I feel a bit lazy, but you know, we're both fit and healthy, and that's all I could ask for. And, you know, we're living life to the full at the moment. Yeah,
that's beautiful. So Turia, you know, a lot of people derive strength from your story. They look at you and they say, look at what she's done. If she's done that, then I need to rethink this, or I can look at this thing differently. So who do you look to for that kind of inspiration? Like, do you have mentors or people that have inspired you in that kind of way?
I think if you're using just one person as your entire source of inspiration, you might be a little disappointed. So during my recovery, I read a book by Sam Bailey. He's a farmer who had a car crash and became a quadriplegic, and now he flies helicopters. And when I read that book, I thought, this guy hasn't let what happened to him define him. So I found that really inspirational. And I really love TED Talks. So whenever I feel a bit flat, I watch like a quick 10-minute TED Talk.
What's your favorite TED Talk?
My favorite one. Have you watched the one about orgasms?
I don't think so. I think I would remember that one.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's really, really good.
All right.
And there was a TED Talk. I forgot who it's by, but he doesn't speak for like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's just crazy
people that have done interesting things outside the box.
Yeah, outside the box. Yeah.
Right. And you did, we were talking before the podcast, you did Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, right?
Tony Robbins. So.
And Julie was like, did you walk on the coals?
Well, look, a lot of people bag out Tony Robbins, especially here in Australia.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
They make fun of him? He's amazing.
Well,
Changes a lot of lives.
Like, Australians aren't really comfortable with a big American bloke saying, you can change your life. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sit well with a lot of Australians, for sure. He has so many Australian fans because his seminars always sell out. So I love Tony Robbins. He's extremely, I wouldn't say inspiring, but whenever I go to one of his conferences, I get a real kick up the ass to become more. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I went to his UPW. The organisers were like, we want you to walk on fire so we can get photos or whatever. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That's stupid. And then as the conference went on, I started, how when you're really scared of something, you also know that it would be really good for you at the same time.
Yeah, a way of revisiting it to perhaps ultimately overcome and like transcend the post-traumatic stress that has to be associated with you enduring that experience. Yeah,
for sure. So that's why I went straight after Tony. So he did his make your move.
Right. Perhaps most of anybody there, it was most important that you of anybody do it. I would look at it like that. You're the one person, everybody here who's at Date with Destiny, don't worry about walking on coals, but Turia, that's perhaps maybe a really important thing for you to do so that you can do that and be on the other side of it. Do you see it that way or?
Well, I think sometimes we can build things up in our mind to be scarier than what they are. So Tony Robbins, have you been to UPW?
No, Julie has though.
Yeah, she's a fan, hey?
Yeah.
So, he's got the coals on the screen, he's got the crackle of the fire. It was all really sadistic stuff, right. Man. And I was so uncomfortable, and I was like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't think this is for me. But then I followed Tony. We went outside. There was a huge fire pit full of coals. It was about 10 meters long, and I thought that was what we did the fire walk over. Mm. And then we went around the corner. There was these tiny little 2 meter long, sparsely covered,
right,
walkways of coals, and I thought, I can do that. I could do that, yeah.
And you did it.
I did it.
So when you look back on this whole experience now and, what you endured and kind of where you're sitting now, what is how do you conceptualize it? How do you bring words to what it means to you and how it informs how you do what you do and work with the people that you work with?
I think it's really taught me that life is too short not to take risks and try new things and believe in ourselves and just have a crack, have a go. And I was like that before the fire, but I reckon even more so now. Mm-hmm. And just, that life is so precious, and so we also have to enjoy it. We've got to spend time with our family and friends and do what makes us happy and mess around with our mates as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that's a deep insight that you were hoping for.
No, I get it. I think it's honest.
Yeah.
I think that
I don't have any amazing.
No, but I think I'm trying to. It's sort of like you're living your life. This thing happened, and you have to reckon with it. But now you're sitting here with me and you have the opportunity to go and get in front of groups of people and share your story. And story is very powerful, right?
Storytelling is the most basic. Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that have suffered things akin to what you have suffered, but there's a lot more people that suffer a much kind of lower grade, continual version of suffering where they're just sort of dissatisfied with their lives and they feel trapped or they feel unfulfilled or they're in relationships that aren't serving them or they're in careers that they feel unfulfilled in or what have you. So how do you connect with that person?
I think the only way you can make a difference to someone's life, because I can get out there on the stage, I can pump everyone up, I can do my motivation, whatever, but if someone isn't willing to make the change in their life and do the work,
doesn't matter.
I can't help them, They've got to be willing. They've got to, recognize that they're in control of their own lives and B, say, yeah, I want to put in the yards and I want to improve my life and I want to have more fulfillment and I want a better relationship and I want, but I also think it comes back to reflecting on what we do have in our lives, because it's very easy for us to become dissatisfied that we don't have X or Y or someone's been mean and this isn't working out in my life, isn't how it's supposed to be. And I think everyone's got problems. We all do. And I think if you want a life without problems, what's that saying? If you want a life without problems, go to the cemetery.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, there's a saying like, I think we've all got problems. We've all got minor little dramas throughout the day. And I think if you just accept that as part of the journey that is life, instead of thinking that there's something wrong with your life and you shouldn't have any problems or suffering at all.
And if there's something amiss in your life, awry, like you have to take responsibility for it and take the actions to change it, as opposed to putting that on somebody else and then giving them excuses as to why that's not going to work.
Yeah, use my dad's advice.
Right.
No whinging.
I think I just found the title to this podcast episode. No whinging. How do you spell that?
Whinging? Oh, yeah. WHING. ING.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a colloquialism. Australian.
I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
You are an inspiration and a beautiful example of empowerment, especially in a culture that is too quick to celebrate women who perhaps I would not be so keen for my daughters to aspire to.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, but I think it's worth repeating that. People say, where are all the female role models? Where are all the inspirational women? And I always say they're all around us, but we just don't do a good enough job of shining a light on them and celebrating them. And so I appreciate what you're doing, and it's an honor and a privilege to put a microphone in front of you to help share your message. And I wish you all the best in your impending wedding and marriage and all the amazing things that you are no doubt going to be doing. Do you have another challenge, or what's on the horizon for you other than tying the knot?
Look, we want to have a family, so that'll be I don't know what that will be like, actually.
You'll know when it happens.
Maybe I'll have kids and I'll think, shit, I don't want these. Probably not. And just, I've been really busy with Ironman and everything, and so I just want to take some time to obviously work and do seminars and coaching, but also just spend time with my family and friends.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're digging on Turia, the best place to connect with her, turiapitt.com, and at Turia Pitt on all the social media places that we all go to, right? And are you giving any talks coming up soon, or that's all on your website, I would presume?
Yeah, it's all on my website.
See you in person.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, actually, I've got an ebook, Mindset Magic.
Oh, okay.
People can get. It's really good. It's got some of the strategies that we talked about today, such as reframing and things like that.
Awesome. And you can get that on your website.
Yeah, get that on my website.
All right. Thank you.
No worries.
That was delightful.
Legend.
Peace. Lance.
Very good interview.
Thanks. All right, we did it. What'd you guys think? Are you feeling grateful? Did you dig it? I hope you dug it. I really enjoyed her and Michael as well. They're very genuine, really, really cool people. And thanks for listening. Please share your thoughts with me and with Turia. You can find her on Twitter, at Turia Pitt, 2 T's. Pick up her new book, Unmasked, which again, I think is only on sale in Australia, but you can also find her other book, her first book, Everything to Live For. And that's on Amazon. Use the Amazon banner ad at richroll.com to do that. I'd appreciate that. A couple quick announcements. Plant Power Ireland is coming up soon, July 24th through 31st. 24 through 31. It's at this beautiful manor home called Ballyvolane. It's like this James Bond-like setting on 90 acres in the Irish countryside. Just imagine in your mind what an Irish manor looks like. And this is like right out of like a textbook version of that, complete with the couple that owns it and runs it. You know, the guy's got the tweed jacket and the vintage Land Rover and the Labrador. Anyway, it's going to be amazing. 7 days of transformation with Julie and I, as well as special appearances by the Happy Pair lads, which I'm really excited about. We're going to cook, we're going to eat, we're going to run, we're going to meditate, we're going to do tea ceremony, we're going to do intensive workshops on everything from creativity to relationships, We have Ayurvedic treatments. We have glamping tents. It's going to be intense, but it's also going to be super fun. The whole thing is designed to really help you unlock your best, most authentic self, to really transform your life wholesale. So if that sounds cool to you, this sounds like something you would be into, you can find out more information at ourplantpowerworld.com, ourplantpowerworld.com. If you'd like to support this show and my work, there's a couple simple ways to do it. The first way is to share it with your friends and on social media. Simple dimple, right? Leave a review on iTunes. I put the call out the other day. I was at 1,999 reviews and I was like, I just need one more to get 2,000. Put it out on social media and now I have like almost 2,100. So I appreciate everybody who finally pulled the trigger and did that. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. While you're at it, subscribe on iTunes. Very important. And when you're going to buy something on Amazon, please make a habit of using the Amazon banner ad at richroll.com or just typing in richroll.com/Amazon, which will take you to the same place. Buy whatever you're going to buy. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but Amazon supports our show with some commissions on your purchases, which is really great because you don't have to go out of pocket, but you are supporting what we're doing and everybody wins through that. Also, we have a Patreon set up for people that want to sponsor the show financially. And I just want to thank everybody who has done that. I really appreciate that. If you would like to receive a free short weekly email from me, I send one out every Thursday. It's called Roll Call. 5 or 6 tips, tools, resources, things I've come across over the course of the week, usually a couple articles, maybe a podcast I listened to, a documentary I watched, a product I'm enjoying. No spam, no affiliate links. It's really just my way of sharing with you guys things that have been beneficial in my life that I think might be beneficial in yours. That's it. So you can subscribe. You can subscribe to that in multiple locations on my website, wherever you put in your email. Also, while you're there, we got signed copies of Finding Ultra and Plant Power Way. We got cool t-shirts. Also, I want to tease you guys with this one thing. We're building out some additional functionality on the website that is going to be a huge value add for you guys. We've been working really hard behind the scenes on a very exciting new project that we're going to be launching on the website coming up in, I don't know exactly the date, next couple weeks. I'm just going to leave it at that right now, but I'm just chomping at the bit to tell you guys about it because it is super exciting and I think you guys are going to really benefit from it. It's going to make the site a lot more robust and with a lot of just additional depth to help you guys take your life to the next level. Okay, so I want to thank today's sponsors, Boll & Branch, the first honest and transparent bedding company that only uses sustainable and responsible methods of sourcing and manufacturing. Go to bollandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set of sheets by typing in the promo code RICHROLL. And also Casper, the #1 online retailer of premium mattresses at a fraction of the price. Get $50 towards any mattress purchased today by visiting casper.com/roll and using promo code ROLL at checkout. Thanks to everybody who helped put on the show today. Jason Camiolo, audio engineering and production and show notes and behind the scenes help on the WordPress page, all that kind of stuff. Sean Patterson for his genius work on all the graphics and the motion graphics that we're sharing on Instagram, and theme music by Analemma. Thanks for the love, you guys. Appreciate you listening. I know that there is a lot of competition out there for your attention, and to kind of ask you guys to spend, 90 minutes, 2 hours with me every week. That's a huge ask. And the fact that you guys are tuning in, are listening, are subscribing and listening all the way to the end like this, that's amazing. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. I do not take you for granted. And every week I try my best to bring you the very best content that I possibly can. So just know that, and I will see you guys back here soon. Peace. Plant.